So today we're going to be creating a graph that is graphing the results from your acceleration lab. The first thing that you need to do is turn to the appropriate page where your graph is. You need to turn your notebook sideways so that the longer axis is on the bottom. This is your x-axis. Label it time in seconds. Your y-axis is your distance in centimeters. Please label both your x and y-axis. The next thing you need to do is to create the intervals, the distance intervals and the time intervals. Here's how you're going to do it. On your x-axis, you'll notice that every other square, I drew a line. I skip a line, draw a line, skip a line, draw a line, and you draw 10 of those lines with one space in between. Then we're labeling these. Sorry, I mislabeled this one. That should be 0.1. We're labeling all of these 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and so on, all the way to 1 second. On your y-axis, here's how you're going to do your intervals. You're going to make 3 intervals, but if you notice that I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's going to be your 20 centimeter mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 40 centimeter mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's your 60 centimeter mark. So I'm going to show you a different one example of a student's work, and I'm going to graph this student's work. You're going to use this example to graph your own data. Again, do not copy my graph exactly because this data will not be exact to yours. So what we're going to be looking at in graphing is comparing the acceleration of your car when it was on spot 3. So we're going to be looking at the time and the distance that your car went when the photo gates were 20 centimeters apart on spot 3 on the post. And then we're going to be graphing this data right here, the time and distance when the ramp was on spot 6 of the post. So here's how we're going to make things real easy. We're just going to look at the first 2 digits. We're going to ignore these last 2 digits completely. So don't cross yours off. I'm just doing this to show you what I'm going to be looking at today to make it a little bit easier to graph since we have such precise decimal numbers. Okay, so first with your pencil, not a pen, with a pencil, let's graph this data first. At 20 centimeters, the car on the spot 3 post, the car traveled or went this distance, in this time, 0.32. So I'm going to go to the graph, and I'm going to go to 0.3, and a little bit over 0.3 would be about here. Go up to the 20 centimeter mark and make a dot. Now here's where things get a little trickier. I'm not going to graph 0.22 because that would be over here showing that I was going backwards in time. That didn't happen. Instead, if you notice that we went down the ramp, really what happened was it took 0.32 plus 0.22 seconds to get to this section of the ramp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these numbers and I'm going to add them together to get my second point. 0.32 plus 0.22 equals 0.54. That's going to be my next point. You add these 2 numbers together to get your second point. Here's what mine will look like. I'm going to go to 0.54. 40 meters, or centimeters, 0.54 would be about right there. Now, when I go to the bottom of the ramp again, basically this number right here is all these numbers added together, and this distance is all these distances added together, because really I'm just taking the section down the ramp. So 0.54 plus 0.18 is 0.72. That's going to be my third point. So 0.72 would be about here, and I'm going up to the 60 meter mark and making my point. The next thing that needs to happen is you need to get a ruler. Make a straight line from 0 to your first dot to your second dot to your third dot. From this line, we can tell that the car accelerated. The line gets slightly steeper, and so I can tell that the car went faster as it was going down the ramp. It accelerated. Now, let's graph this part of the data. It's the same, I'm going to graph it the same way, but this time I'm going to change colors so that I can tell the difference between the line when it was on spot 3 of the ramp versus the line when it was on spot 4 of the ramp. So my first data point that I'm going to graph is 0.21 at 20 centimeters. 0.21 would be about right here, 20 centimeters right there. Next, 0.21 plus 0.14, my second point is going to be 0.35. Because again, since I'm going down the ramp, I'm adding these two numbers together as I'm also adding the distances together. So, oops, I did it again. My digit was 0.35. I can do it exactly on this line. Adding the distances, my second dot will be here. You do yours. Same thing with my last one. 0.35 plus 0.12 is 0.47. This is going to be my second or my third plotted point. 0.47 will be about right here, all the way up to 60 centimeters, and right there. With my different color, I'm going to connect my lines now. Oops. And I can see that because this is not a straight line, that my car did accelerate and it went faster than this one because it got to the same distance but in less time. The last thing that needs to happen on your graph is this. You need to create a key. Your key over here, I'm going to do mine color-coded, is to show that the blue is spot 3 on the ramp and red is spot 6 on the ramp. Whatever colors you use, you need to color code yours as well so that we know that this data represents here and this data represents this.